The twin suns of Kepler 442 cast long shadows across the crystalline mud flats as Louis Chen adjusted his exoframe's hydraulic stabilizers. The veteran's cybernetic left eye whirred softly, scanning the terrain ahead through multiple spectrums simultaneously. 14 years of combat against the Dreeken collective had taught him to trust his augmented senses more than his natural ones. Thermals are spiking again, Anna's voice crackled through his neural comlink. She was positioned 300 meters north, her own scanning equipment detecting the same anomalies that had drawn them to this desolate region of the planet's equatorial belt. Louis grunted in acknowledgement, his boots squelching through the iridescent mud that covered everything within a 50-kilometer radius of the crashed Dreeken warship. The vessel had gone down during the final days of the war, 6 months ago, taking with it classified technology that both the Human Federation and the remnants of the collective desperately wanted to recover. "I'm reading biosignatures," Anna continued, her tone shifting from professional to concerned. 3 distinct heat sources, humanoid configuration. Louis, they're alive. He increased his pace, the exoframe's servos whining as they amplified his movements. The mud ahead began to bubble and steam, releasing clouds of vapor that his helmet's environmental sensors immediately flagged as containing trace amounts of draconic pheromones, the chemical markers unique to Dreeken biology. What he found made him freeze mid-step. 3 figures lay partially submerged in the crystalline mud, their bodies completely naked and covered in the shimmering, translucent substance. But these weren't ordinary Dreeken soldiers. Louis's cybernetic eye zoomed in, analyzing their physiological structure with ruthless precision. They were hybrids. The women, and they were distinctly female in form, possessed the elongated facial structure and scaled skin patches characteristic of the Dreeken species, but their bodies maintained predominantly human proportions. Small vestigial wings sprouted from their shoulder blades, the delicate membranes torn and damaged. Their skin, where not covered by scales, showed a peculiar iridescence that seemed to shift between human flesh tones and the deep emerald common to Dreeken warriors. "Anna, you need to see this," Louis transmitted, keeping his plasma rifle trained on the unmoving forms. Years of combat had burned caution into his neural pathways. "On my way, what am I looking at?" Dragon-human hybrids, 3 of them, unconscious or in some kind of stasis. Anna arrived within minutes, her lighter reconnaissance armor allowing for faster movement through the treacherous terrain. She knelt beside the nearest hybrid, her medical scanner humming as it collected data. "Incredible," she whispered, her dark eyes wide behind her helmet's faceplate. "Their cellular structure is a perfect fusion, not grafted or gene-spliced like the failed experiments from the early war years. These are naturally occurring hybrids." Louis felt his stomach turn. The implications were staggering. The human-Dreeken war had been fought precisely because biological compatibility between the species was considered impossible, a fundamental barrier that had made coexistence seem unattainable, if natural hybridization was possible. "The war was based on a lie," Anna said quietly, voicing his thoughts. "Someone knew, someone always knew." Before Louis could respond, his motion sensors screamed a warning. The mud 10 meters to their left exploded upward in a geyser of crystalline droplets and steam. Through the spray, an arm emerged, massive, heavily muscled, and covered in military-grade bioarmor that integrated seamlessly with scales and flesh. Louis's rifle was up and charging before the figure fully emerged. What rose from the mud made both veterans take an involuntary step backward. It was male, easily 7 feet tall, with the broad shoulders and powerful build of a Dreeken warrior caste. But like the 3 unconscious hybrids, this creature combined human and dragon characteristics in ways that defied the biological certainties upon which an entire war had been predicated. His face was angular and distinctly human in structure, but covered in fine scales that caught the light like polished jade. His eyes, entirely too human in their expression, locked onto Lewis with an intelligence that sent warning signals cascading through the veteran's tactical assessment algorithms. "Lower your weapon, human," the hybrid spoke in perfect Federation standard, his voice a deep rumble that carried harmonics impossible for a purely human vocal structure. "I am Captain Dreven Cross, Hybrid Integration Unit 7. These women are under my protection." Lewis didn't lower his rifle. "Integration unit, what the hell is that supposed to mean?" Anna's hand moved to her sidearm, but her medical scanner was still active, still recording. Lewis could see her scientific curiosity warring with military caution on her face. Dreven raised his hand slowly, a gesture of non-aggression that seemed oddly familiar despite the alien physiology. "It means that everything you were told about the war was a carefully constructed deception. The Dreeken Collective and the Human Federation have been capable of producing viable offspring for over 30 years. We are the proof." "That's impossible," Anna said, but her scanner was already confirming the genetic data. "The incompatibility studies, the failed contact protocols." "All fabricated," Dreven interrupted, "by interests on both sides who profited from continued conflict. The military-industrial complexes of both civilizations required an enemy that could never be negotiated with, never be understood. Biological incompatibility was the perfect excuse." Lewis's mind raced through the implications. The trillions of credits spent on weapons development, the billions of lives lost, the planets rendered uninhabitable, all based on a lie designed to perpetuate an endless conflict. "Why reveal this now?" Lewis demanded, his rifle still raised but his finger moving away from the trigger. "Because the war is over," Dreven replied simply, "and because there are forces on both sides who want to ensure that the truth never emerges. These 3 women," he gestured to the unconscious hybrids, "are refugees from a black site research facility. They were created as part of a continuation project, an attempt by hardliners to manufacture a biological weapon that could restart the conflict." Anna had moved closer to the 3 women, her scanner working overtime. "Their neural patterns are disrupted, extensive conditioning, probably psychological manipulation. Someone tried to weaponize them." "A rogue element within the former collective command structure," Dreven confirmed. "They believe that hybridization represents a threat to Dreeken genetic purity. They would rather see both species destroyed than allow integration to proceed." Lewis finally lowered his rifle but kept it in a ready position. "And you, what's your stake in this?" Dreven's expression, so human despite the scales, softened marginally. "I'm a product of the first successful integration program, created during a brief peace initiative 28 years ago. When that initiative was sabotaged and buried, subjects like myself were scattered across classified facilities. I escaped during the war's final months. These women are my sisters in a manner of speaking. We share the same genetic architects." Anna looked up from her scanning. "They're waking up, neural activity is increasing." The 3 hybrid women began to stir, their bodies responding to some internal stimulus that Lewis's equipment couldn't detect. Their eyes opened simultaneously, revealing irises that shifted between human brown and Dreeken gold. The first one to speak had a voice like music filtered through broken glass. "Dreven, where? What happened?" "You're safe, Alara," Dreven said gently, moving to help her sit up. The mud slewed off her body, revealing the full extent of her hybrid nature. "We're on Kepler 442b. The facility is gone. You're free." The other 2 women, twins by the look of them, clutched at each other as awareness returned. Their eyes fixed on Lewis and Anna with a mixture of fear and desperate hope. "More humans," one whispered. "Are they here to kill us?" Lewis felt something crack inside his chest. These weren't weapons or monsters. They were victims, caught in the machinery of a war that should never have been fought. He pulled off his helmet, letting them see his face. The scars, the cybernetic eye, the evidence of a soldier who had given everything to a conflict built on lies. "No," he said quietly, "we're not here to kill you." Anna removed her helmet as well, her expression gentler than Lewis had seen in years of military service together. "We're here to help, if you'll let us." Dreven studied them both for a long moment, his hybrid senses no doubt analyzing everything from heart rate to pheromonal output. Finally, he nodded. "There's a facility," he said, "hidden in the northern ice shelves. Other hybrids are gathering there, refugees, escapees, volunteers who believe in a different future. We're building something new, a society that proves integration is possible." "You're asking us to commit treason," Lewis said flatly. "Any Federation officer who aids enemy combatants faces execution." "The war is over," Anna said softly, her hand on Lewis's armored shoulder. "And maybe it's time we stopped being soldiers and started being human again." Lewis looked at the three women, still weak and confused, clinging to Dreven for support. He thought about the 14 years he'd spent fighting an enemy he'd been told could never be anything but alien, incomprehensible, irredeemable. He thought about the lies. "How many others?" he asked. Dreven's expression shifted to something like hope. "At the facility, perhaps 200 hybrids, but if the truth gets out, if we can prove what we are, there could be millions who would join us. Humans and Drekins tired of dying for someone else's profit margin." Anna was already uploading the genetic data from her scanner to an encrypted server, her fingers flying across her wrist-mounted interface. This information could change everything. Proof of viable hybridization, evidence of deliberate deception at the highest levels of both governments. "It could also get us all killed," Lewis reminded her. She smiled grimly. "What else is new?" Lewis made his decision. He engaged his comlink, sending a coded message to their dropship pilot. "Sergeant Morrison, initiate radio silence protocol. No contact with command for 72 hours. Authorization Chen Alpha 7. "Sir," Morrison's confused voice came back. "That's a court-martial offense." "I know, do it anyway, Chen out." He looked at Dreven, at the three hybrid women who represented everything the war was supposed to have made impossible. "We'll get you to your facility, but after that, we're going public with everything. No more lies, no more hiding." Dreven extended his hand, a very human gesture from a being that embodied two species' potential for coexistence. "Agreed." Lewis gripped the hybrid's hand, feeling the strange texture of scales over human muscle and bone. Behind them, the twin suns of Kepler 442b continued their endless dance across alien skis, illuminating a world where perhaps, just perhaps, two species could learn to build rather than destroy. The mud beneath their feet continued to bubble and steam, the last remnants of a crashed warship dissolving into the planet's strange chemistry. Lewis couldn't help but think it was appropriate. The old war, the old hatreds, slowly being absorbed by a world that recognized neither human nor Drekin, only life trying to survive. "Let's move," he said, helping Alara to her feet. "We have a long walk ahead of us." Anna activated her terrain mapper, charting a course to the northern ice shelves, and an even longer fight once we get there. But as they began the journey north, the three hybrid women walking between them and Dreven, Lewis felt something he hadn't experienced in 14 years of war. Hope and